All right, I have a confession to make. I have a confession, but I'd first like to pose a question. Living in the past, is it a bad thing? We're always told that constantly living in the past impedes forward motion, but I have a confession. I live in the past, at least for part of my day. I always thought that living in the past was a bad thing. People tell you that you can't constantly live in the past because then there's no way that you can move forward. People always say this, and a character from one of my favorite movies even said this. Edna Mode said, I never look back, darling. It distracts from the now. So I used to have this belief that living in the past was a bad thing. But recently, I've decided that living in the past can have benefits as well. So I've changed my mind about nostalgia, and today I'd like to change yours too. I'd first like to talk about a study performed by a professor at the University of Southampton, Professor Konstantin Sedekiles, performed an experiment with two different parts. The first one focused on the positive self-attributes that people have, the accessibility of describing themselves in a positive way. The second one had more to do with the attributional patterns in the presence of a self-esteem threat. So the first one, he had two groups. One was asked to think of a positive future event, and one was asked to think of a nostalgic event. And they were given a list of traits, and they were told to choose the ones that they can apply to themselves. So what happened was that both groups kind of had the same number of positive traits, but the interesting thing was that the nostalgic group was much quicker in choosing these traits to describe themselves. And then in the second part of the experiment, these two groups were given a test for analytic reasoning, and then they were given positive or negative feedback. And it turns out, one documented response to negative feedback is to take less credit for your failures and more credit for your successes. But this can have serious consequences for self-improvement, and what happened was that the nostalgia group took more credit for their failures and less for their successes. So they were able to take the failure to heart and really try and improve themselves. Nostalgia is a bad thing, or at least that's what everyone has always told us. I mean, the word itself has bad connotations. It comes from the Greek nostos, meaning return, and algos, meaning pain. It literally means a return to pain. So the term was coined by a 17th century med student talking about Swiss mercenaries and who were away from their families. It was seen as a mental illness, and it was seen as a disconnection from the present, and people who were experiencing nostalgia were ill-equipped to deal with the present and afraid of the future. But what we know now is that nostalgia is a way for you to tap into your past experiences. It reminds us that we lead meaningful lives and that we have good relationships, we're happy, we're valued as a person, and life itself has meaning. So it just always turns out that nostalgia is always accompanied by negative feelings and negative events, so people see it as a symptom of these problems. However, I'd like to pose that nostalgia is part of the solution. There are many studies outlining the benefits of nostalgia. You can actually feel warmer from thinking from past events. It makes you feel more connected to people in your lives now, and it can act as an antidepressant, and it can counteract feelings of boredom, loneliness, and anxiety. So it's thoughts like these that can apply your past experiences to the present. It makes you feel like you have a meaningful life and a shared history with everyone that you've already had. So everyone has seen The Incredibles, I would assume. So Mr. Incredible, he comes back into the game because he comes out of hiding because of a menace from the past syndrome. But the reason why he can do this and the reason why he feels like he has the confidence to do this is because of all of the memories that he's had in the past. He knows that he was able to do it before, so why should it be any different now? So I have a challenge for you. Next time you're feeling uncomfortable or anxious, don't be afraid to reach back and grab those positive memories. And then the second part of the challenge is to live a life worth remembering, because you never know how it can help you in the future. Thank you.